Okay, good evening once again. So today we're going to discuss the last topic for the term, and that's the weighted average cost of capital. By way of reminder, guys, ang exams natin sa Saturday will cover Chapter 5, Chapter 6, and Chapter 19, Financing and Valuation. Okay, so let's open this. So this is about capital structure, okay, which is all about the determination of the weighted average cost of capital, which is used to evaluate capital budgets, long-term investments. So in chapters 5 and 6, we learned about computing for net present value, IRR, okay? And we said that when we compute for these metrics, the net present value and the internal rate of return, we have to use the weighted average cost of capital. In fact, it's the after-tax weighted average cost of capital in determining, okay, the project itself, the viability of the project. So in this subject, we will learn how to compute for that weighted average cost of capital. And dito may mga portions which I'll not be discussing anymore, but I'll require you to read. Kunyari, adjusted present value. Okay, sandali, baka may nag-question. Hindi pa ba naka-share yung screen ko? Nag-stop share pala ako. I'm sorry. Okay, share screen ulit. Alright, so I'm looking at chapter 19. No? This is payout policy and capital structure, financing and evaluation. Okay, so may excellent on chapter 19. There are just 4 topics here. Number 1 is how to compute for the after-tax weighted average cost of capital. Okay, so how is the WACC computed? Okay, notice that it states here that it's after tax. So in other words, guys, pag kinompute natin to, we have to take into consideration tax. Saan sinasubtract yung tax? Kasi after tax. No? So if you take a look at this formula, the weighted average cost of capital is equal to R sub D is your cost of debt. No? Ito yung cost ng debt, letter D stands for debt. And then you notice that you subtract it by 1 minus the tax rate. So if the tax rate is 30%, so effectively ang cost of debt natin becomes whatever that cost is multiplied by 70% na lang, assuming the tax rate is 30%. So bakit pinabawasan natin ng 1 minus tax rate? Okay, bakit binabawasan natin ang tax rate? Because we know that when we do the financial statements, no? Binabawas natin yung interest expense. Paano ba nagkakaroon ng interest expense? Interest expense is born out of the use of debt to finance projects. No? So pag gumamit tayo ng utang ng debt, nag-i-incur tayo ng interest expense, and this interest expense is deducted from your EBIT, from your earnings before interest and taxes. And what happens is that your earnings before tax, yung taxable base natin, is reduced because of the interest. So nagkakaroon tayo ng tax savings because of the use of leverage, the use of debt. So that's why, guys, yung cost of debt is netted after tax. Okay? RE is your cost of equity, and we multiply it to the weights. No? Weight ng debt over V. V is the market value of your total assets. And E is your equity divided by the value of your total assets. So yung D over B na yan at saka E over B, that should be 100%. Kasi yung financing, either debt or equity. Okay, so this is an example. No? Example to ng pag-compute, simple computation ng weighted average cost of capital. We have the book value here, and then we have here the market value. Ang ginagamit natin sa pag-compute is the market value. Okay, ang market value na ngayon daw, 1,250, 1,250, ito yung book value, 1,000. Now, this was born out of the increase in equity. Yung market value ng debt, pareho pa rin, 500. Pero kasi yung yung market value ng equity tumaas from 500 naging 750. Okay? Therefore, ang gagamitin natin itong market values na to. So how do we compute for the weighted average cost of capital? Okay, we have to know the cost of debt, ito, R sub D, no? Which is 6% given sa atin. Tapos ito, cost of equity, 12.5%. You notice that the cost of equity will always be higher than your cost of debt. Bakit? Kasi mas risky, guys, yung equity, no? Investing in equity. And we know from the principle of risk and return, no? That the more risk assumed, then the greater will be the required return. Kaya walang mag-i-invest guys sa equity kung mas mataas pa yung return ng debt. No? Nobody will invest there sa equity kasi bakit ka mag-i-invest sa equity in mas risky siya tapos mas mababa lang yung returns niya. Equity is riskier kasi in terms of liquidation, yung folding up, nagfo-fold up na yung business ng company, no? In case maging bankrupt sila. Ang ginagawa dyan, all the assets are converted to cash, binebenta, tapos ang binabayaran muna yung mga debt holders, yung may mga utang. Huli na babayaran yung mga shareholders kung may matitira pa. Okay? So, also guys, si debt, laging may may constant yung interest payments na, di ba? So kunyari 10 years yung tenor ng utang ng debt. So every year, depende kung annual o semi-annual, babayaran yung mga debt holders ng interest payments. And then at the end of the term of the debt, saka ibabalik yung principal. Sa equity walang ganun, no? Pwedeng dividends but it's not a guarantee, no? Na lagi may dividends. Okay, ang motivational ng mga equity holders is the capital appreciation. Of course, guys, there are two types of equity, yung preferred stock at saka yung common stock. Ang difference sila, si preferred stock, fixed yung may dividend siya, fixed. Okay, kaya nga si preferred stock parang debt din yan. Kaya sometimes it's called a quasi debt, no? Si preferred stock. Tapos given tayo ng tax rate at 21%, okay, therefore we can now compute for first yung debt ratio natin, yung weight. So, magkano ba yung debt natin? Market value, 500. So, divide natin yung total value ng assets yan. 1,250. So, that's 40%. Tapos si equity naman, 750 out of 100, 1,250. So, 60%. You can see here that this is 100%. No? Therefore, guys, yung WACC natin will be, so this will be equal to the cost of debt, R sub D times 1 minus tax times the weight of debt. So ganun lang siya, no? Weight ng debt times cost ng debt times 1 minus the tax rate. And then si equity naman, it will be the cost of equity times the weight of equity. So that gives us the after-tax cost of capital na 9.4%. So itong 9.4% na to, ito yung ginagamit to evaluate projects, no? Itong 9.4%, hindi yung 6%, neither din yung 12.5%. Dapat yung weighted average cost of capital. Okay, so you use that to compute for your NPV, your IRR. Okay, so I'll not look into that, no? All right, so this is a short chapter. So dito naman, okay, we will not go into this. Although nung first few weeks, we did a computation of the horizon value. No? You can review this. Okay, ito ginagamit yung free cash flow to estimate the value of a firm. Okay, yan, horizon value. Okay, and then 19.3. Okay, so this is again another example lang ng pag-compute ng WACC. No? Ito guys, tatlo yung financing. Debt, preferred stock, at saka yung common stock. Okay, we'll have an example about on this. Paano kung tatlo yung financing, paano natin kino-compute yung cost of capital. Ganun pa rin, pareho pa rin. And we get the weights of each of the financing. Debt over total market value of assets, preferred stock over market value of the assets, and equity over the market value of the assets. So kunin lang natin yung ratios nila, yung proportions nila, and they should add to be 100% natin. Okay? So, all right. And then lastly guys, is ito lang, pakibasa na itong adjusted present value. So may mga ina-adjust lang sa present value, guys. No? Okay, I will not discuss that anymore. So I will leave you guys to read this portion of the may base case na NPV at saka merong adjustment, no? Adjustment dun sa present value to account for the interest savings or interest shield. All right. So last is the summary lang to, no? Questions and then summary. So that's it, guys. Ganun lang yung chapter 19. So may I invite you to open the Excel file that I shared with you. So yun ang we'll have 3 worksheets here. From my experience, natapos naman namin yung yung pag-discuss itong tatlong worksheets na to. Tatlong workbooks. At tatlong worksheets pala, sorry. Okay, let's first go to notes. Okay, so let's quickly summarize lang natin to, no? So sabi natin that a firm is financed either by debt. Okay, if you take a look at this diagram, ang financing ng isang company, so yung current assets, that's financed by current liabilities. So technically speaking, ito yung spontaneous financing. So current assets financed by current liabilities. When we talk of the capital structure, we're actually looking at the long-term, no? Mga long-term assets and mga long-term na financing. So here you have fixed assets on the asset side, on the liabilities and equity side, you have long-term debt at saka equity. Now, this composition you call the capital structure. And dito natin ginagamit yung pag-compute ng cost of capital. Now, let's just clearly illustrate this case in point lang to, no? Okay, so let me just... So what is this telling us? So let's assume that a company has a proposed investment that's worth 100,000. So we'd like to answer, bakit importante yung WACC? Why is it important for us to know, determine what's the weighted average cost of capital? So, for example, this company has an initial investment of 100,000. Ang useful life ng project na to 20 years. Tapos, based upon their computation, the IRR is 7%. Okay. Tapos, they base their WACC on the least cost source of financing, which is debt. So, 6%. So, ang decision yan, of course, will be to push through with the project. Di ba? Kasi, ang IRR natin 7%. Tapos, ang ginagamit na lang WACC is 6%. Pero yung WACC na yan, hindi talaga WACC siya. Ang ginamit siya na debt, no? So debt lang, hindi sinaming equity. So dito, ang decision will be approve the project, okay yung project kasi IRR is greater than the cost of capital being used. On the other hand naman, dito sa kabilang pane, sa kabilang window, 100,000 din, 20 years, ang IRR 12%, and then ang ginagamit na basis is the equity, no? 14%. Dito, i-reject yung project kasi mas mababa yung IRR kaysa dun sa cost of capital. Dito, i-approve yung project kasi mas mataas yung IRR sa cost of capital. But in both instances, guys, mali yung decision. Kasi ang ginagamit na cost of capital is just the piecemeal lang, yung debt lang dito yung equity lang. Dapat, ang ginagamit na average cost of capital is a combination of both debt and equity. Okay? Debt and equity dapat. Kaya meron tayong after-tax weighted average cost of capital. So just to bring home that point, ito yung sinasabi natin dito. Why is it important to determine yung weighted average cost of capital? Okay, as the example above shows, yung piecemeal approach, guys, mali yun. And it's not clearly in the best interest of the shareholders. Over the long term, the firm must undertake investments that maximize firm value. And yung maximization ng firm value, guys, na-generate lang yan, undertake lang yan, kung ang ginagamit is, dun sa discount rate, is the weighted average cost of capital. and not this piecemeal lang na debt or piecemeal lang na equity. Okay? So we have to be able to compute for the WACC, no? Weighted average cost of capital. So how is this computed? Okay? Sabi nga natin, di ba? Ano yung weighted average cost of capital? Sa sum up natin lahat ng W sub I, K sub W sub okay, I, tapos K sub D. No? Ito yung cost ng debt, pero dapat ita-times natin sa 1 minus tax rate. And then ipa-plus natin plus W sub gamitin kong P times cost ng P plus W ng C times the cost of C. So dapat ito W ng D. Okay, so let me just increase this. Okay, so this is your weighted average cost of capital, di ba? Okay, yung cost of debt natin will be yung weight ng debt multiplied by the cost of debt times 1 minus tax rate, and then si preferred, weight ni preferred stock times cost ng preferred, at saka weight ni common stock times cost ng common stock. Now, how do you compute for this? Okay, so may mga givens dapat para natin ma-compute si cost of debt, cost of equity, at saka si cost of common stock. Okay, so first, the cost of debt, no? Ito medyo mahirap tinan dito, no? What's important here is that the cost of debt should be the cost, another name for that is yield to maturity, and then we subtract the tax rate. So for example, dito na-compute na yung yield to maturity is 9.45% and the tax rate is 40%, dapat ima-minus natin yung tax. Okay, so instead of 9.45%, 5.67 na lang. Okay, so that's the cost of debt. Yung equity naman, dalawang klase yan, preferred. So yung formula, ito. Dividend divided by the price, the current price minus the flotation cost. Okay, yung flotation cost, it's the cost to issue that preferred stock. Kasi usually yung mga companies, they hire the services of investment banks, okay, other financial institutions para mag-issue, para i-issue yung debt, para mag-float ng bond, para mag-issue ng common stock or ng preferred stock. So may cost yun, no? And that cost is called your flotation cost. And sometimes it can be stated in terms of peso or in terms of percentage. So later on, guys, we're going to look at this. And lastly, guys, cost of common stock. Okay, pareho lang siya ng halos pareho lang siya ng preferred stock. Ang kaibahan lang, ang dividend ni preferred stock, guys. So ito 'yan, no? Ang dividend ni preferred stock, ito. It's D1. D1 siya, it's a dividend for the next period. It's also divided by the price of the common stock minus flotation cost, and then you will have to add the growth rate, G. Okay, so we'll appreciate this more, guys, when we take a look at an example. Okay, so in a nutshell, ang weighted average cost of capital is considering all the costs here: the cost of the debt, the cost of preferred stock, the cost of common stock, and then we multiply each of them by the weights of this financing. Okay, so let's go to the first example in number 1. Sample number 1 natin to. Okay, so here we have tatlong sources ng ng financing. First, you have the bond. So ang bond, guys, di ba, debt yan, no? And then you also have preferred stock. So yung company may preferred stock din, at saka meron din siyang common stock. Okay, so tatlong sources ng financing. Debt, okay, debt, preferred, and then common. All right. So we have to learn how to compute the cost. Magkano yung cost ng debt, magkano yung cost ng preferred, magkano yung cost ng common stock. Okay, magsimula muna tayo sa cost ng debt. Okay, we have givens here, no? Okay, uutang tayo, no? Yung debt utang, di ba? Tapos usually long term siya. If it's Ang short term lang naman yung mga treasury, di ba? At saka yung mga commercial deposits, yung mga CDs. Pero let's assume that this is long term. This is long term kasi 10 years yung maturity. So ang uutangin guys is 1,000. Okay, ang maturity 10 years. Ang interest or coupon rate is 10%. Okay, may mga additional information pa tayo dito. Tax rate is 30%. May flotation cost tayo. At saka may price yung debt natin. Okay, ano ibig sabihin yan? Ibig sabihin yan guys, this is what we call a discount bond. Discount bond. Okay, what does that mean? Bakit discount? Kasi nanguutang tayo guys ng 1,000. Pero magkano lang ibibigay sa atin? Yung price ng debt is 904.53. No? So the price is lower than the face value. Okay? So willing tayo na tanggapin yung babayaran nila na ibabayad sa atin na 904.53. Tapos ang utang natin, ang naka-record is 1,000. That's what we call a discount bond. So there are many reasons why companies can issue discount bonds. Usually, guys, it's because of the prevailing market rates. But I won't go into the details. No? I won't go into the details of this, but suffice it to say that another reason is that mas risky yung asset natin. No? Mas risky yung credit rating natin, medyo hindi maganda. So dapat willing tayo na to borrow at to lend at a discount. No? Okay, so willing tayo na babayaran lang tayo ng 904.53 now, tapos magbabayad tayo after 10 years ng 1,000. Okay, so in other words, hindi natin makukuha yung gusto nating utangin nasa kontrata. Tapos hindi pa lahat ng mapupunta sa atin. Kasi may flotation cost. Ibig sabihin, this is the cost of issuing the debt. So binabayad natin yan sa mga investment companies or sa mga financing institutions na gumagawa ng ganyan service na mag-float sila ng bonds para sa atin. Okay? So ito yung parang service fee natin sa kanila. So how do we compute for the cost of debt? Okay, the way to go about it, guys, is to the best way is to plot the cash flow. So ilang years ba tayo? So 10 years, no? Kasi ang maturity 10 years. So let me start with 0, 1, 2, 3. So just to illustrate this, okay, hanggang 10. Okay. Now, ano ba nangyayari, guys? Ano mangyayari sa cash flow natin? Okay, at the onset, oops, mali. At the start, manghihiram tayo, di ba? This is a discount bond as against, sulat ko na dito, premium bond naman, yung opposite niya. Premium bond, we are able to price our bond higher than the face value. Kunwari, 1,003. So that's a premium bond. Tapos yung isa, yung par bond, ibig sabihin, equal yung price at saka yung face value. Okay? So how much? So at year 0, at time 0, at period 0, how much are we going to get? We're going to get 904.53. However, guys, hindi yan ang makukuha natin. Ang makukuha natin is 99% lang. That's what we're going to get kasi yung cost ng flotation is 1%. Ibig sabihin, yung 1% ng price mapupunta yan dun sa service provider ng financing institution. Okay? So what we'll be getting is 895.5. So that's cash flow, inflow yan. Iba inflow. Tapos, ano mangyayari? For the next 10 years, magbabayad tayo ng interest. No? Interest natin is 10%. So how much interest are we going to pay? It's equal to, lalagyan ko lang ng negative dito. Negative 10% multiplied by the face value. Okay, so negative 100, guys. Yan ang babayaran natin sa first year. Siyempre, hanggang dulo na yan. No? F4, fix ko. Hanggang dulo natin babayaran yung 100 pesos na yan for 10 years. There. Diba? Negative kasi magbabayad tayo dyan. And lastly, at the end of 10 years, babayaran din natin yung 1,000, yung face value ng bond. Okay, yung nasa contract, yan ang inutang natin. Okay? So we have these three cash flows. Makakatanggap tayo ngayon ng 89,895. Tapos magbabayad tayo every year ng 1,100 for 10 years. And then at the end of the 10th year, magbabayad tayo ng 1,000. So that's the story of the cash flow here. So pwede natin ma-compute guys yung rate. No? Kasi alam natin may present value tayo, may PMT tayo, at saka may future value tayo. So we can compute for the rate. It's equal to rate. Okay. Okay, first rate, N per natin. N per is 10 years. Okay, comma. What's our PMT? Our PMT is, yung annuity natin, it's 100 multiplied by the coupon, 10%. Ito yung 100 every year. Okay, I'm not going to fix this, yung mga dollar F4 natin, kasi hindi ko naman ikakopy yung formula. Comma, what's our present value? Okay, so negative nga pala to, no? Para hindi tayo malito. Negative to, magbabayad tayo. Present value positive kasi ito yung matatanggap natin kasi nangutang tayo. No? So this amount multiplied by 1 minus the tax rate. Okay, 1 minus the flotation cost. So 99% lang itong 904. In fact, 895 yun. Okay, so that's the present value, comma. What's the future value? Future value, magbabayad tayo ng negative 1,000. Okay, ito yung principal amount. Okay? Alright? Close natin. So, this is our yield to maturity, 11.837. Okay, kaso dapat, pag cost of debt, di ba, dapat after tax ang gagamitin, dapat ima-minus natin yung 1 minus tax. Ang tax natin is 30%. Okay, so it should only be 70% of the yield to maturity. Okay, so it's not 11% but 8.286. So bakit naging 8.29%? Kasi sabi nga natin na kapag debt, merong tax shield yan. So that's why we get the after-tax cost of debt. Okay, let me pause for a while. Okay, so let me just show the formula. And then once you're done, guys, pag nakuha nyo na, paki-chat naman, please. I hope most of you will give your feedback. Importante sa ating feedback. And please, once you're done, paki-feedback agad because medyo kukulangin tayo sa oras and we'd like to maximize our time, optimize our time as much as possible. Okay, good. So, tatlong nag-chat, no? Okay, salamat Abigail, salamat Trisha, and who else? Si Marian, thank you. Right. I don't know if Angeline kung natapos na, but thank you for this people who chatted. Let's give your classmates a few more minutes and then we proceed. Okay, I hope the others will also give their feedback. Okay, good, good. So thank you so much, Jingyu, Basil, sino pa? Kane, thank you, Marian, thank you. Right, that's good. All right, so we may proceed now. Jonathan, thank you then. Okay, I'm happy. Jiying, also thank you. I'm happy that you're following along. Should you have any questions, please, guys, don't be ashamed to ask questions. Okay, so that would be our cost of debt, no? K sub D. Now let's go to the preferred stock. The price now of the preferred stock is at 1,000. And then ito information natin. Ang dividend ni preferred is 10 pesos. Flotation cost is 2%. So ibig sabihin, mag-i-issue si company ng preferred stock. Kailangan niya ng help ng mga companies whose business is really doing this, no? So gagawa sila ng parang prospectus para sa company, tapos i-market nila. I-market nila yung financing need ng company para may mga mag-i-invest. All right? So the formula is simply dividends. So note guys, ang preferred stock, ang dividends ito hindi nagbabago. No? It's constant, just like debt na interest, ito 100, 100, 100. Kaya nga sabi ko kanina, ang sometimes ang Ang preferred stock is sometimes called quasi-bonds. Okay, parang wait na. Okay pa rin ba guys? Can you still hear me? Am I still audible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Kasi parang may nag-ulit yung nag-ano ulit yung Zoom, baka nawala ako. Okay, so that's your dividend, D sub P, no? Okay, divided by magkano yung ano ngayon? Magkano yung market, yung price? Divided by, so open parenthesis, the price now is at 100. Okay, and then we will have to deduct the flotation cost. The flotation cost is 2%. No? So we will multiply this by 1 minus the 2%. Okay. Kung peso din yung binigay dun sa ano sa flotation cost, then ima-minus lang natin. Pero kasi percentage. No? Okay, let me see kung may question. Okay, thank you, Tricia. All right. So this is the price less the flotation cost. We're subtracting it kasi ito in percent no? In percent. So that means 98% lang nitong 100. Okay, so that's why 10.20%. No? That's our cost of preferred stock. And you notice, guys, that the cost of preferred stock is more expensive than the cost of debt. Okay, generally, guys, mas mahal yung cost of equity kasi nga mas risky siya. Mas risky. And finally, guys, you have the formula for the cost of common stock, K sub S, or others call this R sub S or R sub C, iba-ibang pangalan. And take note, it's equal to D1. Okay, what's D1? D1 is your dividend at period 1. Okay, so this is next year pa, no? Next year's dividend. Okay, now ang information sa atin, binigay sa atin yung D sub O. Okay. Now D sub O is different from D sub 1. Okay, yung D sub O, yung dividend na nabigay na for, say for this year, nabigay na yung dividend, ang amount 3.96. However, remember anong method ang tawag dito? Constant growth model. So dito sa model na to, guys, we are assuming that dividend will grow at a constant amount. And that growth rate is 6% given to. No? The growth rate is 6%. Therefore, we know D sub O. So makukompute natin yung D sub 1. No? D sub 1 is simply equal to your D sub O, okay, times, we allow it to grow by the growth rate. Yan. So D sub 1 will be D sub O times 1 plus growth rate. So this can be replaced by D sub O times 1 plus growth rate. Okay, so we can compute that. So this is equal to, sa numerator will be the dividend at time 0. D sub 0 yun, no? Dividend at time 0. Then we let it grow by 1 year kasi D1 dapat yung gagamitin natin. No? So that's 1 plus 6%. Okay, take note guys, na nag-plus ako, no? Kasi nag-grow na yung dividends by 6%. Okay, and then we divided by, parenthesis natin, price. Magkano yung price ng ano ngayon, ng common stock? The price is at 70 pesos. Okay? 70 pesos. Tapos, may flotation cost na 5%. So, tatanggalin din natin yan. Times 1 minus the 5%. Okay? Sarado ko rin to, no? And then, may plus G yung formula. Plus G. And G is the growth rate. Ito. Plus G. Dito 1 plus G, ginamit natin G para to compute for D sub 1. Ito naman, plus G dito, kasama sa formula yan. Enter. Okay. So I'm getting 12.31%. Okay. So oops. So ito yung formula ng ano natin. Ito. Okay, paki-chart nga please guys kung nakuha natin yung 12.31% na ano, na cost of equity, cost of common stock. And notice that the cost of equity, cost of common stock is higher than the cost of preferred stock, which is higher than the cost of debt. We see here the most expensive is your cost of common stock. Okay, guys, paki-chat naman please kung nakuha nyo. Okay, thank you. Angeline, Tricia, Robert, how about the rest, guys? Thank you for replying. Robert, Tricia, Angeline. Let's wait for the others. Sana mag-respond din yung iba. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Basil. Salamat. That's good. Okay, others, please. Jingyu, thank you. Okay, that's good. Okay, so let's wait for 2 more. Kahit maka 6 man lang tayo. Or hindi na, 6 na pala, no? Tapos makakalahati tayo ng 8. Let's wait for others. Okay, John, salamat. Okay, thank you. Okay, that's good. Tapos nakakalahati tayo, no? Okay, so we now have the costs. The cost ng ano natin, cost of debt. This is your after-tax cost of debt. Then cost of preferred stock, then cost of common stock. And you can see that the cost of common stock is more, it's higher than the preferred and the debt. And that's very consistent, guys. And it practically, it reinforces the principle that of the risk and return principle, that the higher the assumed risk, the higher should be the required return. Okay, kasi walang mag-i-invest sa common stock, no? Walang bibili niyan kung ang returns pa niyan, ang cost niyan is lower than debt. Eh, magde-debt na lang ako, mas less risky pa, mas mataas pa yung interest, no? Mas mataas pa yung returns. Okay, so we're now ready to compute for the weighted average cost of capital. Lagay natin dito WACC. Okay, we're now ready to compute for the weighted average cost of capital. And sabi natin, di ba, anong formula? Weight of debt times cost of debt plus weight of preferred times cost of preferred plus weight of common stock times cost of common stock. Okay, so how do we compute for the weights? We need to know yung market value niya, no, ng bawat isa. So ang debt, sabi dito, ang price niya 904. And then ilang bonds ang inisyu niya? 400. No? 400. So okay, palitan ko lang to. Control 1, tanggalin ko yung dollar. Just the number. Hindi na ko nilalagyan ng decimal place. Okay. And then i-bold ko naman siya. Alright. So it's 361,812. So we can copy this formula down. So si common stock, 70 times 10,000. Si preferred, 100 pesos times 1,000. Alright. So given the total market values of each of these instruments, we can now compute for the weight. No? Ito yung weight natin. Which is just the percentage, gawin ko lang tulitan ko to, percentage of the total. Okay? So kailangan natin itong weight kasi i-multiply natin yan sa cost. No? So the weight is simply, ano yung weight ni debt? It's simply, magkano yung debt divided by, magkano ba yung total? No? Magkano ba yung total financing? Ito. Tapos, because we're going to copy it down, I'm going to fix the row. There. Okay. So that's my formula for the weight of debt. So it's the debt amount divided by yung total ng debt, preferred at saka common stock. And that gives us 31% down. So si debt is 31%. And let me copy this down. Pwede natin i-copy pababa. Okay, if you check this, okay, so that should be 100%, no? So 8.61 lang si preferred stock and 60% si common. So ito yung as expected, ito yung malaki, no? No, sorry. Ito yung pinakamalaking cost. Okay, mali. Not necessarily dapat pinakamalaking siya. Not necessarily pinakamalaking weight, not necessarily. Yung iba mas malaki yung debt, no, kaysa sa common stock, etc. Okay, so we can now compute for the after tax. We call this after tax. After tax. After tax, weighted average cost of capital. Okay. Okay, so paano natin kinocompute to, guys, yung after tax weighted average cost of capital? Ano lang? 31.14 times 8.9% plus the weight of the preferred times the cost of the preferred times the weight of the common multiplied by the cost of the common. So we can use the Excel function sum product. Sum product, ang ginagawa niyan, i-multiply niya product and then it will get the sum. Okay, sum product ng mga weights at saka ng mga costs. So dapat pantay sila, no? Nagtatatlo here. Okay, close natin. All right, so the answer is 10.88. Okay, 10.88 is the after-tax weighted average cost of capital. So which means, guys, that when you evaluate capital budgeting, you do not use 8.29%. You do not use 10.20. You do not use 12.31. Okay, you use this 10.88% as the after-tax weighted average cost of capital. Okay, so I'll give you a few seconds to please chat. Sana nakakuha nyo rin, guys, yung 10.88 na yan. I-flash the formula. Okay, chat please. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Abigail. Thank you, Angeline. The others. Sana nakahabol din yung iba. Yeah, very good. Very good. Salamat, ha? Jiying, Kane, thank you. All right. John, thank you. Very good, guys. Okay, so ang answer natin is 10.88. Ito yung ginagamit natin, guys, in evaluating projects. Hindi yung 8.29, hindi yung 10.20, hindi yung 12.31. Okay? Thank you, Robert. What we use is the weighted average cost of capital. In this case, kinompute natin, it's 10.88%. Okay. That's good. Most of you were able to compute this. Now let's go to the second problem. Okay, so we have two more worksheets. Okay, ganun din to, no? So this is just to amplify what we just learned. Okay, so ito tatlo, no? Meron tayong bonds, meron tayong preferred equity, at saka meron tayong common equity. Okay, so once again, magko-compute tayo ng mga KD, KP at saka KS. First, yung bonds natin. So, given sa atin maturity niya 10 years, ang coupon rate niya 9%, okay? Ang frequency niya 2. So ibig sabihin twice a year to, semi-annual to. Yung kanina kasi annual, no? Face value is 1,000. Yung price palitan natin, guys. Gawin natin 1,005. Let's make it a premium bond, no? Premium bond. Okay, premium bond, guys, ibig sabihin, okay? So the investors, the borrowers, are willing to pay a higher amount, okay, for the 1,000 pesos that will be paid to them. at the end of 10 years. Okay? This also happens kasi very attractive tong bond na to, very stable, maganda yung performance, then pwedeng yung mga investors they're willing to part with their money na mas malaki pa kaysa dun sa ibabayad sa kanila at the end of the period. Of course, meron namang interest payments to. Okay, so let's compute, guys. Let's plot again the cash flows. So times 0, 1, 2, 3. This time, guys, ang periods na to is ilan ang periods niya? Did you know, guys? How many periods to? Okay, napakita ko na, no? It's 20. Bakit 20 siya? Bakit 20 number of periods nito? Kasi 10 years pero semi-annual. So ibig sabihin every 6 months, no? Okay, if you recall, guys, kinompute natin yung ganyan, di ba? Compounding other than annual. Okay, so let's compute. Magkano yung price niya? 1,005. Tapos may flotation cost na 2,000. Pero ang kaibahan, compute muna natin cash flows natin. So our cash flows will be at time 0, ito, no? 1,500 yung ibabayad sa atin. Pero may flotation cost yan, 1 minus 2% yung flotation cost. Okay, there. So 985. No? Ito yung present value na papasok na pera natin. Diba? Tapos, magbabayad tayo. Magkano babayaran natin? Ang face value niya, 1,000. and then times 9%. No? Okay, and then, we have to divide it by 2. Kasi twice a year yan. Diba? So, pag hindi natin divide ng 2, mamamali tayo. No? And then, I'm going to fix ko na lang lahat, F4, para isang fix lang. Enter. So, control 1, counting, number na lang. Okay, tanggalin ko na yung tanggalin ko na yung decimal place. And then, magma-minus ko dito. Now, nag-minus ako, guys, kasi interest babayaran natin, no? Para clear lang sa atin kung yung direction ng cash flow. So, hanggang hanggang 20 periods, no? 10th year yung 20, period 20 kasi semi-annual to And then on the 20th period or on the 10th year, magbabayad tayo ng yung principal, which is 1,000. Yan. Sundin natin format nito. Okay? So yung magkakasamang direction ng cash flows ito, panay bayad, no? Ito bayad din. Ang inflow naman itong 985. So kasi umuutang tayo nito, nabibigay sa atin at the beginning. Alright? So we can now compute for the rate. So yung before tax, it's sometimes called yield to maturity. So sige, compute natin. I-bold ko ito para kita nyo na. So this is the rate. Okay. Again, ano yung N per natin? Number of periods is 10 years, but we have to multiply this by the compounding per year. So semi-annual siya. Comma, PMT. Ano yung PMT natin? So our annuity is, magkano yung utang natin? 1,000. Okay. Multiplied by the interest rate, and then i-divide natin ng 2. Kasi kalahati lang kasi every 6 months. No? And then minus natin kasi interest to. So nagbabayad tayo. Napalabas yung pera. Comma. Present value natin is how much yung present value. Magkano yung price nito? Okay, kaso may flotation cost. Ibabawas natin yung flotation cost na 2%. Okay. Okay? So positive siya. No? Positive siya kasi tayong umutang, papasok yung pera. And then lastly, may future value, no? So, at the end of the 10th year, meron pang 1,000, no? So, palabas yan, babayaran natin negative na 1,000. So, take note, guys, of the direction, no? So, yung annuity at saka yung future value parehong negative. Pwede rin reverse yan. No? Pwede rin ang gawin negative, ito lang. Tapos yung annuity at saka yung future value parehong positive. Pareho lang yung lalabas. Alright, but take note guys, itong yield to maturity natin, this is semi-annual. Diba? Nag-divide tayo ng 2. So kailangan ma-convert natin into annual yan. So times 2. Okay? So it's 9.23%. Alright? So kaya nga tawag sa kanya mali spelling ko, premium bond guys, no? Bakit premium? Tingnan niyo yung yung yield niya. Yield to maturity niya. Okay, I'm not talking of the after tax cost, ha. The yield to maturity is greater than the coupon rate. Dito kanina, di ba yung yield to maturity natin dito? If we don't include the tax, ito rin i-run ko, no? So that's 11.83%. Okay. Wait, 11.83%. Mali yata. Control Z, balik ko naman. Okay, anyway, guys. Tama naman yata tayo dito. No? Naalala ko to 8.29%. Tama kanina. Okay, so now we're able to compute for the yield to maturity, but kailangan natin kunin yung after tax yan. It's always after tax kapag cost ng debt. Minus the tax rate. Okay, so that's the YTM times 1 minus the tax rate para maging ano siya, after tax. Okay, so this is our after tax cost of debt. Ayan, 6.46%. So meron na tayong isang cost ng financing, that's the cost of debt, 6.46%. Okay, let's go to the preferred equity. Pareho lang ng pag-solve to kanina, no? So our cost of preferred equity is simply the dividend. Okay, unlike yung common stock na yung kunyari constant growth, the dividend grows every year. Yung constant growth rate, no? Sa preferred hindi, pare-pareho lang yan. So that's 11 dividend ng preferred divided by quantity. Magkano yung price niya? 125, no? But I will have to subtract the flotation cost. So 3% ng 125 yun ang flotation cost natin. Okay, so pretty straightforward guys, yung cost of preferred stock, and it's higher than the cost of equity. Cost of debt, no? All right, and lastly, okay, alam din natin to yung common stock, no? So the formula is D1 over the price netted against the flotation cost plus G. Okay, now ito ang binigay na sa atin yung D1. No? Okay, D1. So wala tayong growth rate na i-multiply dito kasi kanina binigay yung dividend at time 0, yung katatapos lang na dividend. Okay, so this is still future dividend next period to 1.25. So the cost of common equity will be, so the dividend, okay, hindi na natin siya subject sa growth rate kasi dividend na to for the next period, and then divided by, what's the price? 41.5, and then times 1 minus the flotation cost. 1 minus the flotation cost. Okay, sarado ko to. And then we add the growth rate, 7%. Okay. So our cost of equity, cost of common stock is 10.27%. Okay, again guys, I'll pause for a while and request your feedback if you were able to follow along. Paki-chat na lang sa chat box, please. So I have one. Okay, thank you, Abigail. The others, please. Trisha, would it be okay to get the formula for the yield to maturity? Okay. Please. Thank you, Trisha, for your question. So sa bonds ito. After tax, we just multiplied it by 1 minus tax. Kasi wala pang, diba dapat ang kinukuha natin yung after tax cost of debt. So you have to multiply your yield to maturity with the 1 minus the tax rate. Okay, Trish, did that answer your question? Okay, thank you. Any other questions, guys? Okay, so I'm looking at the time. Kailangan natin medyo i-budget. Meron pa tayong, may isa na lang naman. Kakayanan natin. Kailangan natin mga 20 minutes so dapat matapos tayo dito. Alright, this one. Ito na yung last, no? Kasi na-compute natin yung, yung mga costs natin. Sometimes, ang ginagamit na, na pag-compute ng weight is the book value. Kung hindi available yung market value, then you can use the book value. Weights based on the book value. But since we know the market value, yun ang gagamitin natin. So si Common, magkano ba yung price ni Common? 41.50. Yun ang market value niya, di ba? Multiplied by the number of shares outstanding, 240,000. Okay. So ayusin ko lang yung format nito. Highlight ko na. Control 1. And ayoko na may dollar. Okay. There. So this is the market value of your preferred. Common pala. Si preferred, magkano siya? 125. No? Multiplied by the number of shares ng preferred. Okay. So, and then si debt naman, magkano yung price ni debt? 1,005, multiply that by the number of bonds issued. Ayan. So we can see here, guys, that mas malaki ulit si Common. Okay. So this is equal to, diba, i-divide natin si Common divided by the sum. To get the average sum of all of this, fix natin yung row para makakopya natin along the column pababa. So that's 74%. Okay, kahit 1 decimal place lang. 74.4%, 2.3%, and 23.3%. So ito yung mga weights nila, no? And lastly, guys, yung WACC natin, it would be based on, di ba, magkano yung cost of financing ni Common? 10.27%. Tapos si preferred, 9.07%. Tapos si debt, yung pinakamaliit, 6.46%. Okay. So we just got these values from the above. No? Okay. And therefore, guys, ang weighted average cost of capital natin is 74.4% times 10.27, 2.3% times 9.07%, 23% times 6.46%. So, we just use the sum product. The sum product of the weights and the cost of financing. All right, so gawin na natin percent. Okay, so this is our after-tax weighted average cost of capital. Okay, so yun yung gagamitin natin sa evaluate ng mga capital budgeting projects, NPV at saka IRR. So it's not the debt, the 6.46, hindi rin neither the common or the preferred, but it's a weighted average na cost of capital. Okay, so kindly chat please, or any questions? Kung may questions ba, kung nakuha yung WACC natin? Okay, no questions? All right, then, tama-tama, we go to the last one. Okay, we go to the last worksheet here. Okay, and that's creating an investment opportunity schedule, IOS. Gagamitin ko mamaya as a title. Okay, let's begin with the end in mind. Click yung iOS worksheet nyo and then unhide. Okay, may hinide ako dyan, iOS 2. There. Okay, so if you take a look at this, okay, this is an investment opportunity schedule. So ito yung end in mind natin. No? How do we construct this? Ang ibig sabihin nito, okay, this plots kung ano yung projects ang pwede based on IRR given limited budget. So kunyari ang budget nyo lang 1 million, ito yung cost natin, total cost. Okay, dalawa lang project sa magagawa. No? Itong unang project na to, tapos yung pangalawang to. Hindi nakakayanin yung third project. Kasi sa third project, ang cost niya, aabot ng hanggang dito. This point. Which is 1, 2, 4, 3, 185. Okay, so this is what we call the investment opportunity schedule. So let's do that. No? So let's go back here. Okay, may mga steps tayong gagawin para ma-generate natin yung iOS. Okay, number one step, copy natin to. No? Copy, Control-C. Copy lang natin dito, Control-V. Okay, then, kasi we're going to base our decision based on IRR, i-arrange natin chronologically si IRR from the highest to the lowest. Okay, so highlight natin to project hanggang IRR. Okay, and then we go to data sort. Data sort. Okay, we're going to sort yung IRR. Okay, values from the largest to the smallest. Okay. Okay. Alright, turns out that ang highest na IRR si Project H. So kung available lang na funds natin is 500,000, hanggang H lang tayo, Project H. No? Kasi hindi natin pwedeng isama si G. Kasi for G, kailangan natin ng approximately 800,000 pag inad natin tong H and G. So that's approximately 800,000. So hindi natin pwedeng isama. No? Si G kasi kung 5,000 lang meron natin. All right, so we're going to create that in iOS. Okay. So how do we do that? Okay, so mag-insert tayo dito, mag-insert tayo, and then let's name this total. So ang gagawin natin guys, i-cumulate natin. Okay, so you know how to cumulate, di ba? Sum ng itong cost na to, and then caret. Alright, so it's sum H5 to H5. Tapos, i-ano natin to, i-fix natin. Fix natin yung row because we're going to copy it down. Control Enter, and then this one. Okay, so what do we have now? We have now the cumulative cost. Ibig sabihin, if you're going to do all the projects, assuming na yung IRR natin is greater than the weighted average cost of capital, kunyari yung WACC natin 10%. So all the projects are okay, no? Kasi greater than WACC yung IRR natin. Pero kaya lang natin guys magawa si Project B kung meron tayong available na 2.7 million. If not guys, then kunyari ang budget lang natin 2.2 million. So kapag 2.2 million tayo guys, pwede tayo hanggang kay D. Okay? Pwede tayo kay, hanggang kay D. Hindi na pwede kay si A kasi pag in-add natin si A, kailangan natin ng 2.225 million. Okay? So that's the purpose of this cumulative sum. Okay, ang gagawin natin dito, iurong na natin to dito. Let's move this here. Okay, since i-manipulate natin to, i-copy natin to, Control-C, and then paste special values. Okay, so nawala na yung mga formulas dito, no? Wala na. Values na lang siya. And we're going to use that here. Okay, so balik ako sa diagram. Paano nagawa to? Itong stepwise na to. Okay, ito guys, this is project H kasi siya yung pinakamataas na IRR. Diba? Tingnan nyo, 16.51 siya. Ito yon. And then si project H, ang cost niya, 407,769. So ito guys, ito, hanggang 407,769. Yung susunod, okay, which is G, from 407,769 hanggang 803,978. No? So hanggang dito, 803,978. Project G yan. No? Ang cost niyan, ang total, 803,978, etc. So we need to perform this, we need to do that. Okay, so we're going to use this, no? Itong mga cumulative sum natin. Okay, make sure that hindi na siya naka-formula. Make sure na naka-ano na siya, naka-fix na siya. Okay, so first we're going to show yung from 0 up to 407,769. So how do we insert that? Well, mag-insert tayo ng column dito, no? Okay. All right, so lalagay natin 0 dito. Tapos ito is equal to 1651. Ulitin ko yun, ha? Okay, and then home, format painter. Yan. Okay. So ulitin ko guys, para magkaroon tayo ng step ladder function na yun, na drawing sa Excel, kailangan natin ipapakita yung mga break-even points, no? Yung breakthrough points natin. Okay, let me go back to that illustration dito. Okay, tingnan nyo to. So this is actually from 0 up to 407,769. Yun. Tapos kailangan magda-drop siyang ganyan. Okay? Tapos 407,769 hanggang 803,979. So this is project G, then project I, then F, then J, etc. Okay, so how do we do that? Ang gagawin natin guys, in order to allow that drop, mag-i-insert tayo dito. No? So kindly insert here. Okay, mag-insert muna tayo guys in between points, and then I'm going to show you how this is, why we should do this. Okay, nag-i-insert lang ako guys ng isang space. Okay. Insert one space. Insert one space. Okay. All right. So, kailangan naman ito guys, kailangan up to 803,997. So, paano natin i-ano yung line dito? Tapos, paano magkakaroon ng drop? Ito kasi, 407,769 hanggang 803,978. Pero paano niya ginawa yung drop? Okay, the drop is caused by, okay, so dito, we will equate it to, copying ko muna yung format nito, is equal to this one, magdadagdag tayo ng, ng 1 centavo lang, just to have that break. Tingnan nyo, nag-plus 0.01 ako. And tapos ito, dapat is equal to yung IRR ng second project. Okay? So let me just copy the format of this. Okay, and then lagyan ko lang siya ng yan. All right. So what's this? This is simply the previous one plus 0.01. Itong plus 0.01 na to, ito yung magkukos ng bagsak ng drop. Okay, and then this one is simply the 16.16. Kasi dapat nakapari siya, ano? From 407,769, yung IRR nun, 16.16%. And then we have to copy this, no? Naka-formula naman kasi siya. Control-C, Control-V, 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 panay Control-V tayo. We're copying that We're copying that cell. Ano pa pala? Alright? So let's see guys. Let's see. So kunyari ito, no? Yung may brown na to. So this is yung previous na 803,978, then plus 0.01. And this on the other hand is equal to the IRR of the next one. Okay? So napapansin nyo, dalawang nakapares yung mga IRRs. No? That will cause the straight line. Yung drop naman, ito, yung difference ng 1 centavo. Okay? Ang lapit na mag-time. So we're now ready to plot this. No? I-plot na natin to. So just highlight all of these values. Then we will insert, then dito sa ano natin, we can use this one. No? Ito. Yan. Alright? Then medyo babaguhin na lang natin kasi medyo pangit siya kasi yung y-axis natin medyo hindi naka-proportion, no? Ang pinakamaliit ba na natin, ang pinakamaliit na IRR natin is 11.48, no? Tapos ito naka-zero siya. So tanggalin natin yung ano, yung iba. So highlight natin format axis, and then okay, minimum natin sa axis is 0.10. Gawin na natin 10%. No? Para dito siya. Dito yung simula niya. Enter. There. Okay, so mas maganda na, no? So 10%. Tapos guys, pwede natin lagyan ng ano to, ng pangalan. This is equal to, pinangalanan natin yan ng ito, no? Investment Opportunity Schedule. Yan. Tapos ito, lagyan natin ng axis titles. So for this one, this is the internal rate of return, which is your IRR. Okay, and then this one, this is our total cost. Pwede natin i-link dito. Nakalink dun sa total cost of function. Total lang pala siya. No? Ito itong total cost. Okay? Alright. So, we have this model now. No? Pwede nating, kung gusto yung baguhin yung design, ito na kukunin kong design. Alright. So, this looks quite good. No? So, ano to guys? Ano tong model na to? So, this is your investment opportunity schedule. Ang sinasabi nito, okay, this is telling us that kung ang budget natin okay, if our budget is only up to 407,769, kunyari hanggang 500,000 lang, si project H lang, no? Okay, pwede nyo nilagyan dito ng pwede nyo lagyan dito ng to make it look better. No? Kunyari, i-represent nyo ito sa pwede natin i-insert yung, okay, pwede natin project H. Tapos konting adjust na lang. Okay, format. Tanggalin yung fill, no fill. Okay? Tapos yung color niya, gawin natin, kunyari, white na rin. And then, pwede natin i-group siya. Group. Okay, para pag ginalaw natin yung graph natin, sasama siya. Okay, anyway, mga ano lang yan, mga part, oops, ba't nawawala? No? Dapat hindi siya lalayo. No? Okay, so anyway, guys, so this tells us kung magkano yung budget natin. Okay, you're able to determine hanggang saan lang yung ano natin, hanggang saan lang yung project natin na pwede magawa. So kunyari 2 million budget, okay, pwede pa to, no? H, G, I, etc. hanggang dito, no? Kasi umabot pa to ng 2 million. Okay, but if it's only, let's say it's ang budget natin 1.3 million, no? 1.3 million. So hindi pa pwede ito kasi ito hanggang around 1.5 million dapat eh. So ito lang tatlong to. 1, 2, 3. Okay? Alright. So yun. Exactly guys. That's our lesson for the whole term. Okay. So once again reminding you guys of the quiz on Saturday from 2 o'clock. Okay. That will cover chapter 5, chapter 6, konting chapter 7. So pakibasa na lang konting chapter 7 and chapter 19. They are relatively short chapters. Okay? And ang mga questions, multiple choice lahat with problem solving and concepts. Okay? So with that, guys, we end our session for the term. Thank you so much for the term. It has been a very wonderful journey learning with you guys. I hope natuto kayo kahit paano. I hope may value added to mga sessions natin sa inyo. Okay? So thank you so much. And of course, guys, bago tayo mag-course card distribution, please. Okay? Hopefully within the week, guys, i-post ko na yung mga kulang ko pa na hindi na po-post. I'm sure na-post na yung na-post na yung quiz last time. Pati yung after you take the quiz sa Saturday, mapopost na rin kagad yun. Okay? Plus, hopefully yung iba mapost ko na rin. Tapos if there are any concerns about your grades, guys, please feel free. PM guys, paki-PM, no? Please do not email kasi kapag email guys, minsan hindi ako nakakapagbukas ng email at saka minsan ang dami nasuswamp ako. So I might not be able to see that. Okay. So stop recording na pala ako.